Okay, well, hi everyone, and welcome to KnightsCast, the very first episode of our new podcast about Kill Team. It's a game. If you're listening, you've probably played it already or know something about it, but if not, we're going to talk a little bit about, how it works over the course of, however long this podcast lasts for. We're hoping quite a while. Let's take a minute first just to introduce ourselves, so we're just going to go around and say who we all are. So, my name is Ben. I've been playing Kill Team for, the better part of a year now. Played about 40 games, almost all of them as orcs. More than half of them I've lost. Yeah, it's been bloody. It's been brutal, but I'd do it again. I guess my claim to fame in Kill Team is that I know most of the rules.
It's true.
Yeah,
definitely. You are our rules judge.
Well, don't push it. Okay, some to most of the rules. Let's keep moving around. Aaron, you want to go next?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Aaron. I'm the resident troll player. I play the armies you hate. I run Grey Knights, I run Tau, and I run Plasma Spam Guard. So I welcome any comments telling me that I am not good at the game. And I'll see you at the table.
Well, I'm Jesse. I'm the bitter noob player. I've lost pretty much every game I've played. No, I'm joking. But I play the overpowered Nids as a running thing, and then I also play. What's my other team, guys? Jeez. Killerpox.
Crons.
That's kind of new one.
And you've got
And
Necrons.
I play Necrons. Necrons that we bought off the shelf at LVO, which
Yeah.
I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
You bought him the night before LVO and played him in the tournament.
Who needs a win
So-
when you get a good story out of it?
Right?
And an awesomely painted army for, no money.
Yeah, I know. It only cost me $30, and I got everything. I can't even play commanders with it. So,
Yeah.
guys, that'll be a new section. How to buy your armies cheap off a rack.
Go to LVO
Yeah, go to
and
LVO
hope
and
they
just-
have a full kill team for you.
Okay, yeah, right.
Hi, I'm Will. I am the... What am I the resident of? I play Eldar. I'm the only one that plays the pointy-eared space elves. I also play, very recently, Thousand Suns. And I guess I've kind of abandoned my Ultramarines. I haven't played them in a really long time.
It's been a bit, yeah.
I also have, in theory, an Imperial Guard force that I've used once.
I forgot about my GSC, the other
Oh,
army
yeah.
that everyone makes fun of.
You're
Yeah,
so
God, my
angry
boys
about your
that
GSC that you're like, it's out
I'm
of
so
my memory.
sad about them
And-
failing. That I still love them.
By the way, did you hear at Adepticon, the 40K championship, GSC placed second
Ooh.
Maybe I'll have to
behind Chaos Demons.
Maybe I'll have to give my boys another roll,
Yeah,
huh?
so
They're kind of trolly too. They
Yeah.
kill units on one hit.
there were a lot of rock saws in that list. A lot of rock saws.
I mean, I would appreciate a break from the towel. So,
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen.
Okay.
It's all towel all the time.
Funny, Jesse, that you should mention the Tau, because we'll be getting to that in just a little bit, talking about our meta and hearing from an expert Tau player sitting at our very table.
So, I guess another thing, too, is, roughly all of us are, I'm brand new into the GW stuff, about 7 months now,
Yeah.
getting into it. I've had some previous experience with GW, but not much. And I think everyone else around the table, y'all have had GW in your life, essentially pretty much all of it.
20
right?
years,
Yeah, 20 years.
for me.
Roundabout's the same for me.
Yeah.
I painted some little metal models in my early teens.
You've
about 20 years ago.
got some good classic models that you still run, which is great.
Yeah.
Your Chaos Force is fantastic with the old second edition heavy bolter and the guy with the big hand.
The guy with the big hand. Old Slappy.
Old Slappy.
Is it like an old school Power Fist?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's got big red fingertips on it. It's great.
I played him last night, and I'll tell you, 12-year-old me would have been so happy.
And you run some awesome second edition Grots with your orcs.
That's true. I got some super old school orcs, yeah.
You run a lot of metal in your kill teams, which is kind of a rare sight.
I think there's some real value to playing a team where your enemy doesn't know what the hell your models are supposed to represent. So, yeah, that's right.
Confuse them.
That's right, exactly. Keep them on their toes.
Yep.
What do you mean that's a power claw?
It looked just like a hand.
We'll actually, yeah, I've got a story. Funny, yeah, we'll get there. So I think the first thing we want to do, though, in this first episode. Hi, welcome back. You still there? No. To our last listener, congratulations. You're the only one left. No, so I think what we want to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about sort of a meta that's developed in our group. In a segment that's going to be a recurring segment, we're hoping. So the segment is the Convince Me I'm Wrong segment. And today we're going to hear in just a moment from Will, who's going to talk to us about a problem he's identified in our meta. Will, would you like to tell us about
don't pin this all on me.
Oh, no,
I'm going to have input from Mr. Jesse here to my right. All right, so
They've
Tau.
been flummoxed.
Yeah, flummoxed. I get real frustrated when I play Tau.
Which I think everyone on Reddit would agree.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a minute because we have a counterpoint apparently. But I'm gonna lay out like what my problem with Tau is. It's primarily got to do with the stealth suits. The stealth suits coming in at like 20 points, correct?
For a base stealth suit?
For a base stealth suit with the burst cannon, which is 4 shots. You get fly. You get to hit on 3s or 4s. 4 or above. You get the stealth field, which means a -1 to hit in any circumstance. Doesn't matter if you're in cover, out of cover. So it's
even the Lictor doesn't have that.
Exactly. So it's better than a Lictor, and a Lictor is 24 points.
25 points.
25 points.
Yeah.
So you get a -1 to hit, even in hand-to-hand combat. For 4 points less than a Lictor, you get a move of how many
8 inches.
8 inches.
Ooh.
But you fly.
Flies.
So you ignore terrain. So that's essentially a Harlequin.
And don't forget the running gun technique of being able to disengage and still shoot and fall back and still shoot in the same turn.
It's great, right?
Yeah, say that to my
Yeah,
turn.
it's
like
a little too great,
So
in
good.
my opinion. Because you take 3 of those in a kill team. You've got your 2 regular base burst cannon models, and then you've got your fusion gun. And I don't know how you beat it, because you have those models, and not only do you have that stealth field, you also have your For the Greater Good ability, which is a great ability, but I would say that's almost broken, because the way that you play Tau, you form Tau gun lines, which is what any good Tau player should do. I'm of the opinion that with 4 shots per burst cannon, with drones, which you typically run with your stealth suits as well, you kind of have, well, why not?
Why
There's
not?
7 points a model, and then you get 4 shots with those too. It makes it kind of impenetrable, and I don't know how to beat it. And maybe that's why I'm frustrated, is that I've thrown a couple different lists at you now at this point, and I don't know what direction to go. I'm not entirely convinced that hand-to-hand is the right way to go.
Yeah, that's not...
Even though that's like the traditional consensus as well, Tau suck in close combat. Because any models that we manage to get into hand-to-hand combat, which is few and far between, get killed. Like, you end up rolling really well in hand-to-hand, and we lose our models. So,
would you be willing to just review really quickly? Remind us, what is For the Greater Good do?
For the Greater Good. For the Greater Good. When an enemy model
great trial of
declares...
Tau.
When an enemy model declares a charge against a model from your kill team, models from your kill team with this ability within 6 inches of one of the charging model's targets may fire Overwatch as if they were also targeted. Now, the downside to that, or the apparent downside to that, is once a model has done so, they cannot fire Overwatch or retreat for the rest of the phase. However, what we found, and this could be with our group, we found that we can only get 1 model, like a turn, to charge in. 1, maybe 2, and we're still facing a wall of Overwatch fire. So pretty much everything we send to the Tau gun line is getting cut down, and so it's I'm intrigued, and part of the reason why I obsess about this is because I want to know how to beat them. I want to work toward beating them.
I will also say though, and Aaron too, as a Tau player, I mean, you have like military strategy when it comes to like a game that we played last night. You literally, what was it that you called it when you put one guy out in front to block me from charging in?
Yeah, you use a lot of screen
I mean,
units.
you screen me. So I mean, I'll say it's also like Tau with that hand of a capable player is extremely overwhelming, because I think even from our first games with Tau, you weren't actually a big fan of Tau in the beginning.
Yeah,
so,
you abandoned them for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Until
I abandoned them for a year.
Yeah, for a while. So, so what prompted that change to bring them back on the table?
LVO was my change to switch gears, because I was running the GSC, because I love them for the fluff. I think that they're great models, super fluffy. I love the way they look. They kind of do this like proletariat thing that I like. They look like they're like plucky upstarts, but they're not great. They just aren't they're suboptimal. They aren't very good. You have to weather storms of fire to get them in close and do all this other jazz. And granted, I think in mainline 40k, I think they're good because you can bring the numbers to spam and get them in.
They also
in Kill Team
and that sort of thing.
You just get annihilated.
Well, I feel like that's a thing too that we haven't necessarily tried in our group, is essentially horde spam against your Tau line, which is something that we came
This
up
is
last
also
with,
very true.
or last night with as a possibility to and I'd love to hear from our listeners at some point if you've had similar issues with Tau and how you've, at your local game store, how you've kind of like counteracted the Tau player as you like hear us with ours. Like, I don't. Would you see as a player against us? Do you see us doing like? Is there ever a moment that you're like, yes, they fell into my master plan of the gun line?
Every time you guys focus on a stealth suit is good for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna. One of Aaron's mystery stratagems is this thing that is always in the back of my mind, is that I use my stealth suits as an obfuscation to get you to worry about it. He's zipping around the battlefield with a fusion gun or burst cannon with a drone in tow.
Yeah.
And you guys get so focused on that stealth suit that you're not worrying about my Pathfinder team or my 4 Fire Warriors who are moving up at the same time. You're devoting charges. You're devoting all your heavy fire. You're devoting just huge sections of your army to one unit who, if I'm honest with you, my stealth suits don't get that many kills.
I don't know. I disagree, because you can sneak your stealth suit in when you have your drone into my back line like you did 2 weeks ago, where I think I was playing Necrons at that point, where I had a hard time. And now, mind you, I wasn't playing with flayed ones, which I need to incorporate that into my kill team list, at least 2 flayed ones to kind of counteract so I'm being close. But you get in close, and then you have the scatter shot or whatever, and it had how many hits you get with that every time? It's 4
It's
or
an
5?
assault 4, but it's still 4 shots.
Yeah.
Then if I assault, I'm hitting you on 5s.
Yeah.
But typically to counter that, I'm running a really expensive stealth suit with target lock and a marker light, so it counteracts it. But still, I'm hitting you on 4s.
But it's still...
And it's strength 5, but it's AP 0 and 1 wound. It's okay.
But say someone say me with my Nids or or Necrons. I mean, Necrons, I think I get my save on 3 up, which is great, and then it's 6, so it's a little bit easier. But I can't do anything when you're in close range. I can't counteract with melee. Again, need to have played ones. But say with the Nids, my saves are 4s. So even if you get past, you're gonna roll 4 or 5 dice, and you're gonna hit on 4s. You're gonna have a chance of hitting 2 or 3. And then my strength is a 4, your strength's a 5, so you're already in favor of getting a little bit of extra help with the roll. And then after that, I have to roll either, if I'm using my Gene Stealers, a 5+ save, which is already a hard thing to do, even though it's an involved save.
Yeah.
If you're gonna hit and you get past a wound, even with 2 dice, it's a high likelihood that my guy's gone. So and then you get to fall back the second I do get someone in, and you can run away and then shoot again. So
what I'm hearing from Aaron here, and I think so, in case this isn't clear, and I'm sure it is, Aaron is a fantastic Tau player. I mean, we have learned so much just getting trounced by him the last couple of weeks. So what Aaron's saying, and this is awesome, is he's getting in our heads, right?
Yeah.
So you're putting a stealth suit on the table. You're freaking out your opponent who's chasing your stealth suit around. Your stealth suit is faster and can jump over any terrain on the table. It has fly. for those of you listeners who haven't encountered Fly, us too, up until we met the stealth suit. Not a lot of models do it, but it means he can just go anywhere, right?
And still shoot.
And he can
just
withdraw
retreat
from
out of
combat,
hand-to-hand
fall back,
combat and shoot.
So what Aaron's saying is he puts a stealth suit out there. You're worried about how many gene stealers it's going to kill, or how many gene stealers you need in order to kill the stealth suit.
Well,
what
even
Aaron's
to try to
saying
hold
is,
it down,
and what Aaron's saying is, you should be avoiding the stealth suit altogether. You want to charge directly at his gun line of like 25 fire warriors or something like that. Kill them with your gene stealers, and the stealth suit can't
even
do
with that, I
anything.
tried that last night, but that was a different army. So, but I've tried that before in the past, and that's something about NIDS too.
Yeah.
Is how do you get in close combat with essentially to a fire line? Because I think that's a big thing for the NIDS.
I'm giving just trade secrets away now.
Take notes, everyone.
Yes, you're getting the deep insight here on the KnightsCast.
Just, I'm like, the way I look at it, for the greater good, let's say you have your gene stealers. I don't want a gene stealer getting near me.
Yeah.
If you have like 10 of them and you're charging me,
I
can do for the greater good if I want to if I want to take that one unit out, I'm going to put all of my fire onto one unit if I'm dumb. Yeah. And that for the greater good is over. No one can retreat or fire anymore.
Fire Overwatch.
Or fire Overwatch. So that kind of is me. For the greater good is good, sure, but it's not this silver bullet that I think is another thing that I always notice when I'm playing people who play the Tau. They consider the greater good like the silver bullet. Like, I can't charge you. I'm like, you totally can charge me. Yeah. You just have to be willing maybe to lose a model.
We have to sacrifice.
I'm stuck.
Yeah, so you have to be charging at least 2 models in the round. And what that means is that all of a sudden, a veteran specialist who's trying to get stuck in on turn 1, all of a sudden is no longer useful because for the greater good is going to vaporize that veteran specialist. So Tau have a built-in counter to my veteran boss knob with Power Claw, to your veteran Lictor. Right, exactly.
So essentially, if you're going to charge the Tau gun line, your entire force has to arrive at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
Which means they have to survive at least 1 turn of fire. Which is a daunting proposition.
So against melee, essentially centric army, so like my NIDS and Ben's orcs, like you get a full turn of shooting before we. I think it's a little different because Ben can still shoot with the orcs a little bit, but like NIDS.
Well, not if I'm advancing.
Yeah, that's true too. But like and I think that's something interesting too about the like particular games that Aaron and I have played because we've kind of put away the book sometimes and like let's just have a straight up kill match.
More on that in a minute.
Yeah. There's a whole thing on that. But like I think those kind of matches you really get to tell what your army is really capable of when you remove the objectives and seeing what kind of strategies you can get around. And I will say I think Tau and I think some of the major shooting armies they do have a strong capability with the shooting. I think Tau primarily more because they do have the for the greater good and things like that they can strategically use at certain moments. Because you're never, unless you're playing a full horde army, you're never going to run in more than 3 guys. 3 guys are probably the top I've ever ran in a charge. Yeah. But it took me 2 turns to even get the guys close enough to do the charge. Yeah. Because everyone can stay back, even with objectives.
Oh man, so I'm playing orcs. If I charge with only 3 guys, that's like it must be a holiday or something.
Are you even an orc?
Right.
And I will say to any budding Tau player out there is that you castle your Tau and build a static gun line at your peril. You have to play the Tau, and I've learned this.
I don't agree. I think that's the strategy.
You have to maneuver. You have to maneuver, set up, shoot, and go, which is what I've learned.
Because my problem with that is that I don't think that there's any one unit, except for maybe Lictors, and they have their downsides. I don't think that there's any one unit in Kill Team. There are in regular 40k, but Kill Team, I don't think there's one close combat unit that you can have multiples of that would have that kind of impact that would make a castle fall apart. That's my problem.
Ooh. Go ahead. Sorry.
I will say in terms of points though, and how much you get out of your self suit at 20 points is way more than I would say a lictor at 25. Even though my shrimp's 6, I get 3 attacks. By itself, the stealth suit is probably one of the greatest lower cost or higher cost in this point, but
it's an elite choice.
Yeah,
it's certainly an elite choice, but it's lower on the elite level.
And
I would say.
And one
granted,
of the
it's the
things,
second most expensive unit in Kill Team at the moment, but
and one of the things that we're learning about the stealth suit though from Aaron right now, and I just think this is like so cool the way you played them. What you're saying is you pay your it's 20 points.
20. Well, the way I run them, it's 21 to 25.
21 to 25 plus 7 for a drone that follows him around. So you're putting a lot of points on the table. But what you're saying is you're using that 28 points or 30 points or whatever it is to draw basically all of the enemy fire and all of the enemy charges. So you're putting down 30 points as a magnet to basically waste 100 points worth of shots and charges so that your gun line can decimate the rest of the models on the table.
2-unit front line.
I mean, that's brilliant.
For me, it's my gun line is also secondary.
Yeah.
My bread and butter, my Pathfinders. You're running a special weapons Pathfinder team with rail rifles. They go unnoticed a lot because they're not really big models. They just have kind of a funky
because
looking
they're
gun.
only 6 points. The
Not-
7 points
not
for
with
the
a rail
gunners.
rifle.
With the rail rifle,
That's a 13 point.
that's
Those are very.
that's 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a.
But still, like that kind of firepower. And I'm just gonna read off the rail rifle stats here.
Oh, the rail rifle's
Range
just the
30
tastiest.
inches, rapid fire 1, strength 6, AP -4, D3, and for each wound roll made with a 6, the target model suffers a mortal wound in addition to the normal damage. So it's basically a rapid firing sniper rifle hitting on a 4, probably a 5 most of the time because.
Not the way I run them with
If
the
the
recon
person,
drone.
yeah, and then the recon drone is 7 points.
Yeah. I mean,
That's a lot of good
I've-
stuff that you can take for
I'm not gonna
very
lie.
cheap. Like, okay, just looking at their entry,
wrong with
you
that.
can take Fire Warriors, you can take Pathfinders, you can take Breachers, not great in the regular game, better in Arena. You can take the aforementioned stealth suits, and you can also take a smorgasbord of drones. Like
I love a
a
good
drone
smorgasbord.
for every situation, every season. You have so many choices here that as an Eldar player or as a Thousand Suns player, I'm like, well, where's my variety? Like, I don't get any of these options.
I will say it's out, but there's also some other armies like Death Guard 2 also has a variety of choices when it comes to since Death Guard's my next army as I'm learning about it, there's almost too many choices for me to actually come up with, especially since I'm a newer player, of how to actually build it. And I think that's what I was saying earlier is Aaron's such a good Tau player in terms of his strategies and stuff. He really has looked at an army that when he first started playing it was so hard to use, I would say essentially, that you even got frustrated and abandoned for a while, and now that you have more experience, you come back and now you're overwhelming the play against really in every game, because I mean in the first turn or second turn that's pretty much game over, at least in the games that I played with you, and I think Will's played with you too. One slight mistake on us is a huge game for you, and I think that's what's so frustrating to play against the Tau, but it's also super exciting to play against the Tau, because I think there's gonna come a time where we're gonna get something or be able to figure out a way to beat the Tau as our current in-game meta as our group.
Now, Ben, you have a counterpoint to all these
Oh,
arguments.
yeah, but I also just want to say in response, so I think Jesse is so right. Not only that Aaron is a great Tau player, but also you're so right that playing against the Tau I think is really unforgiving, right?
Yeah.
So if I move a model to the wrong place, so that I meant for my model to be in cover and instead he's not, or something like this, it's not just like you get an attack or a charge against me. Instead, it's the case that you have 25 dudes shooting 4 shots each at me. I exaggerate, but only slightly. It's like 24 dudes and 3 shots each. So if I make one wrong move, there's an entire group of several clusters of Tau around the map with guns pointed at me. What that means is, for sure, you got to have a really tight game against the Tau.
Yeah.
Whereas, if I'm playing against some guy with a really strong melee weapon and 1 attack, it's still pretty random if he's going to kill me or not. Aaron's got a volume of fire such that if I screw up, he's going to screw me up.
Right.
I would counteract it, like say that agree with that as terms of like my games with you. Say for like when we play Nids versus Orcs.
Yeah.
Like if we mess one placement up.
Yeah.
And you kill one of my Nids, or I kill one of your Orcs.
It's another gone.
It's
right?
another
it's
gun.
another
Yeah,
bullet.
it's not going to be the end of the game. But like if I say do that with Aaron, like I will my whole armies because I needed that one guy up front to do the charge so I can eat the one Overwatch so then I can run in. So like I think it's so crucial with one misplacement or really an inch matters in a lot of ways in my games versus Aaron more so than say I would say against Will or Ben.
Right.
Coming from me is that I have to watch like a hawk where you're placing guys.
Yeah.
Like Ben last night, to pivot back to his placing a unit wrong, he left a Burn-a-Boy out in the open.
Turn one,
and I, sniped him and took him out his like one shooting unit. And it's kind of like, that's another thing I'll say to budding Tau players is that you have to like identify alpha targets.
Yeah.
Like, because once you start losing models as a Tau player is when it all starts falling apart.
Yeah.
And especially if you start losing your drones.
If you manage to breach that line, then it starts to fall apart.
So, and one of the things I think we've kind of already touched on, but we explored this a little bit last night in our pretty tight game. We played Aaron and I played a matched play game. This was Tau against Orcs. It ended 16-13. The game was Terror Tactics. This is the one where you got to move your models off of the enemy's side of the board, which we hadn't done in a little while. But so this was like I had to kind of remember how to do this. I think Aaron did too. We've been playing a lot of Arena lately, not too much match play, but super fun game, really close, like could have gone either way. Orcs did end up winning against Tau, and what we've touched on here, I mean, and Aaron and I had kind of talked a little bit about, what he was doing right, so Aaron had already given me some trade secrets, so I was going in with a little bit of a clue. So I brought a lot of command. I think I had 6 commandos, which is 48 points. I had a Burn-a-Boy, which brings me up to 60. 3 Gretchen, which brought me up to 69. I had...
Gotta love the 3-point model.
Right on, yeah. I'm telling you, that Grot Blast is a meta-defining
Strength
weapon
2.
right there. Pistol strength 3, 12-inch range, no AP, 1 damage. It's defining the meta, yeah. No, so in any case, so I got a bunch of commandos. They are extra hard to hit. We had a lot of terrain that you could move. We're going to talk a lot about terrain in our next episode. We'll get there later. But we had a lot of terrain that was obscuring, but that I could easily move around. So I was able to move up the map. And when I did finally charge, I was charging with a crap ton of models. So all of a sudden, right, after the first For the Greater Good volleys are done, no one else is shooting, and I can start piling in some commandos, and it worked out real well.
But with that, I mean... You had to set up an army, have the perfect terrain scenario. I mean, literally, you had to have all these things set.
And you won by a small margin.
So I keep joking that I have to get a handicap from you guys to actually have these placements. But that's what it kind of sounds like in terms of that scenario. It's like in tournament play or anything like that, or even if you're doing a campaign at your store or whatever, those kind of I have to specify my army to counteract this particular team.
Yeah. And
that's just a general Tau team, not something that's specific that he's counteracting for you.
I tailor each one of my armies to fight you.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that,
that's how the game should work.
Because even at LVO, we were supposed to be taking rosters. We didn't because we decided the night before we were going to play in this tournament.
Fly by night.
Yeah, so that's where we get our name, Fly by Nights. But it's generally you need to see your opponent, and I do that as well. I try to tailor. In fact, I have my bonkers Eldar list to go up against your Tau, maybe today, maybe after the podcast is over.
I'm down.
To see
a rematch.
My 4 Ranger list. See, I'm going to outshoot him, audience. That's what I'm going to do.
Cue laugh track.
He thinks he will
I'm
outshoot
going
them.
to try to outshoot him with Eldar.
Well, I would say that I think that's an interesting 2 point. So every time I play you guys, I'm not playing a specific army tailored to that. I play a generic.
You're playing a take all.
Take all kind of whatever the scenario is. I think might be an interesting thing where I, as a player, am needing to adapt into a new scenario and to how to play it. But
I
I feel like that might be a new person thing that start learning.
And it's definitely a learning process. I think it certainly is.
Yeah, so I think that's a great point. So when we all started, we were all making take-all-comers lists. So you'd come to the table, having determined the day before or whatever, I'm bringing these 8 models to play with my friends. And that's cool, but, the way this game is, it seems the way this game is often meant to be played anyway. You're building a roster, and then once you decide what army you're playing for a given match, you choose from that roster. There's a whole level of really interesting tactical depth to this game that I think originally we were kind of missing out on.
Yeah.
So a lot of the games we've been playing, so Will, your Thousand Suns against Aaron's Tau, or Jesse, your Nids. Yeah. Aaron's got a lot of Tau models to choose from, and he knows his lists really well.
Yeah.
Whereas often when you guys are playing him, you're not tailoring, and you'd expect, all else being equal, that the player who's tailoring is going to trounce the other. And that seems to be what keeps happening in our meta. So I think that's one thing. Another thing to think about, and I think this is right, again, a difference between being a relatively new player or just playing a kind of an open-ended game versus a sort of a tighter one, is mission objectives. So some of the games we've played against Tau, I think I've played 3 times against your Tau, and a couple of the games we've played, we've showed up and just basically said, let's not have any objectives, let's just kill each other. Yeah. Here's the thing about...
It's my favorite game.
Yeah.
Really, anymore.
Well, it shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
And here's why. If let's just, think this out, and maybe, listeners, maybe you guys try and, we don't have any listeners anymore? Okay, fine. So maybe you do this sometimes too, where you just say, we're not going to have any objectives, we're just going to, run at each other. But the thing is, if I'm playing a melee army, and everyone else is playing a shooty army, my opponent is playing a shooty army, and we agree to not have any rules, that's a de facto rule, because shooty army on turn 1 can just ready all his models, and Aaron is a nice guy who doesn't want to waste my time. He's going to ready all his models rather than move them around for no reason. So he's going to ready everything, and he's going to vaporize my models who have to move toward him on turn 1. So by not choosing any mission objectives for a mission, we're telling Aaron, castle and kill.
Go ahead. Right? Just roll those dice.
And I'm also such a nice guy that, I mean, I think it's also nice of me, if I ready all my models, you can go grab a pizza while I'm shooting at you, so you can go get a meal, go to the bathroom, and you
have
get
a
back.
great
The game
time.
the game will probably be over.
I'll just
took
tell
a
you when it
vacation
ends.
and had a birthday party. Yeah, it's great. It's great. So mission objectives matter so much, and the game really isn't designed to just have your army run at another army. Yeah. One of the things that people love so much about NIDS, as far as I can tell anyway, one of the things that's supposed to be so good about NIDS is that they're great at spamming the board so they can hold objectives.
Yeah. More gaunts, less gene stealers.
Yeah, so if you're playing a map where there are no objectives to hold, then one of those things that makes NIDS uniquely good in Kill Team is gone. Yeah. Instead, you gotta, waddle your lictors, your 4 lictors towards an artillery barrage.
Right. Nids are overpowered.
I would hashtag
Nids are overpowered.
I would argue you do 1 lictor.
Yeah.
You do 1 gene stealer as a close combat specialist, and the rest are guns.
Well,
maybe 1 warrior.
You have to have a warrior because they have the synapse. Unless you just your guns are cannon fodder and they just get -1/-1 for everything. Yeah. Which could be a possibility to run and save your 20 points or 24 5 points depending on how you build your warrior.
But I think we're wrapping up this talk for this episode. I'm sure there will be a version 2.0 of this, but
along those lines, I think we should turn to Will real quick to talk about the list he's got to play against the Tau, just so we can sort of preview what that's going to look like. Did I cut you off? I'm sorry.
You're
okay.
Good.
So real quick, it sounds like again we're going to try and settle our meta this week about Tau being OP by throwing just a whole lot of goofy lists at them, and Will has concocted a 4 ranger list, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little about that, just so we can foreshadow. We will report back on our next episode before we move on to our next segment right now. What's the list?
Okay, my app was a little laggy. Okay, here we go. So, ranger leader. A 2nd ranger, just regular ranger. 3rd ranger, a 4th ranger. I feel like I'm starting a children's book.
1 ranger, ha ha ha. 2 rangers,
ha ha ha. Guardian Defender with comms, and if you're an Eldar player, you know what's coming up next. It's a heavy weapons platform with an Eldari missile launcher. I have 2 Storm Guardian gunners with either fusion guns or flamers, not sure what I'm going to run yet. And then I have a Dire Avenger and a Storm Guardian. So, like I said, kind of an unhinged list, but the whole idea is that I will outshoot Tau somehow.
Okay.
And I made a counter,
Yeah.
since Will told me about that.
Yeah.
I call it my Tau firepower list. It'll be a battle suit as my leader with a fusion blaster and a marker light and target lock.
Okay, so you're going into elites,
Oh yeah.
which we'll talk about later.
Ooh.
I'm going for my specialists, 2 Pathfinder gunners, both with rail rifles, as a comms and sniper team. And I'll also have a battle suit as a scout, a recon drone, which is Will's favorite, and a 3rd battle suit.
Okay. So, Will's trying to outshoot the Tau. I feel like this children's book does not have a happy ending. I cannot wait. More on this next time. But right now we're going to turn to another quick segment where we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about mistakes that we've made. So yeah, we've got a lot of mistakes, and probably you do too. I find after a game of Kill Team, one of the things that usually occupies my mind is that one thing that I did that screwed me over, that one roll I got wrong. And sometimes these are like really instructive moments where you can learn a lot about, what to never do again. So we're going to talk a little bit about mistakes we've made, kind of what we've learned from them. And I think that Jesse's going to start us off.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
Alright.
I've made tons of mistakes. So I would say one of my first mistakes in learning the game is don't be afraid of your being able to advance and do advance rolls. I mean, I would hold back Gene Stealers for a turn or two just to try to get the perfect lineup, but I've lost 2 turns at killing models, and other people have been able to shoot me, And I think the other mistakes is probably more of a new player mistake is learn the gear that your war gear, essentially. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of times for first couple of weeks playing, I didn't realize that I could have Acid Mob with Gene Stealers or have Flush Hooks.
Yeah.
And Flush Hooks have been one of my saving graces a lot of times in a lot of our combat scenarios. So I would say those are probably my first things. It's especially learning your movement phases, how you can move, what you're allowed to do, your options, are definitely probably one of my early mistakes.
Yeah.
In learning. So, Aaron stays solo, standing still with his firing line for most points. So, I don't know. What do you think, Aaron, in terms of game mistakes that you've made?
Not using screening units to block and launch charges is a new thing I've picked up. Is that I would just allow charges, and I think as a shooting army you can't allow a charge.
Yeah.
So you have to I think it goes both ways. I think is don't be precious with your units.
Yeah.
Let them die. In war, things die, and you have to be willing to take the hit to get that shot in that'll get you the battle. So that's probably me, and also not forgetting to actually fight with my units in the fight phase, which I forget about 80% of the time because I'm just like, they don't fight.
Yeah.
They just shoot.
And that is a serious mistake, because there is no better feeling in the world than having your unarmed unit punch someone to death in melee.
Yeah. I feel like that's in Necrons every time. They one roll attack. Well, they hit on a 3, but that's great. That's, get my 1 attack in.
Go ahead.
Did you want to?
No, you go ahead.
Well, so mine. So we went to LVO. About a month ago, I guess. We decided we were going to participate rather than just observe the day before, like less than 24 hours before.
A solid 12.
Yeah.
We were there at LVO halfway through on the first day when someone's like, "You guys should play tomorrow."
And we didn't even have all of our stuff.
Right.
We didn't have much stuff.
We had to go buy secondhand models.
It was rough. And we had to go buy secondhand models, which we did very cheaply at our own peril. But actually,
Necrons
I did
were
not.
great for me. I got a great score with those guys. I got, I think, 12 warriors, 6 or 7 immortals, a whole set of death marks, and the commander
An
overlord
yeah.
for under $50. So, We should actually, next episode, we'll bring up the company or whatever, the store that was there, because they were...
Frontline Gaming.
Frontline Gaming.
Frontline Gaming. They also
Cool.
hosted the event.
They hosted the event.
They did a great job.
They sure did. Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
man.
it was, fantastic. Just to be able to do that, and, fully painted, great models. I'm sure someone in the comments will be like, oh yeah, painting not models that you painted. I do not care. I enjoy the game, and they are greatly painted. So I
They're
appreciate
gorgeous. Yeah.
whoever did this. If you're listening ever in the future, thank you for your Necrons, because they're epic.
I'm the exact opposite. It hurt me every second that I had to play with somebody else's painted models. I was so angry that I had, like, my award-winning Eldar Kill Team paint job, and then something that someone did when they were 12.
Will is an award-winning
Expert paint.
expert painter. Follow him on Instagram at what?
WJ_Ryan Bold.
There you go. Yeah, beautiful stuff.
Yeah. What was the thing that you won again? Like it was.
I
PAX
won the best squad at the PAX Unplugged Arcadian Brush last year.
Well deserved.
That squad.
So we went to LVO and like weren't super prepared. I did bring my orcs, but I didn't.
Weren't
have
you
any-
the only work player in
I
LVO?
sure
You
was.
think
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm like super psyched about this. And my first two games went fantastically. I like won handily. All the people I played with were just like super nice. They were super fun games. One guy was a local, one guy had flown in from New York. Both really good players, and it was just a great time. My third game was like a little weird. Super nice guy. Also, he's playing Drukhari, who I had never played before, and the game got off. It was like we got off to a real slow start. I'm not exactly sure, but my recollection is we started like 15 minutes late, and when they gave us the warning that the game was half over, we had 45 minutes left. We were still on the movement phase in turn one. Like, it was just a weird kind of game.
That was a
I'm-
weird round.
Yeah, and I was playing orcs, so I think I put 15 models down or something like that. So
that takes some time.
Yeah, right. Well, so orcs are always slow moving them, but I do my best to like. This wasn't a huge problem in the other games, but I was doing what I could. In any case, I was getting kind of flustered, as you do when you're in a tournament, which I had actually never done before.
Yeah, I think that was our first tournament for all of us, especially just for Kill Team, but like in terms of like competitive play.
Yeah, and more on that sometime. But man, it was a lovely experience, wonderful community, super nice people. It was great. Anyway, so I had I didn't run any commandos on my roster at LVO because I was afraid that I would get in trouble for not having actual commando models.
Yeah.
So I only ran boys. I mean, I had like a Luda and I had some Burnas, but I didn't have any commandos. But I did have one model that I converted, and it's an old 2nd edition plastic orcs. You may know the ones. They came in the starter set, and there were like 40 orcs in it that were all perfectly identical. These days, they look really goofy for orcs because they're about like half an inch tall, and they just have like this kind of dumb, sleepy look on their face, like they took some like pain medicine or something. It's just like it's not a good look. So I had converted this one orc into a commando boss knob, painted him up like a Christmas tree. I'm like really into this model, so he's my commando boss knob. I gave him a power claw. He's a small model, and again, I painted him lovingly as a commando. Trouble is, as a commando, he really does blend in pretty well. So turn one, I advanced him against this Drukhari player, and I kind of hit him. Well, I hit him a little too well. I lost him, and the rest of the game, I totally forgot he was there. It's my most expensive model on the table. It's like 16 points. He's got a power claw, and I just forgot he existed. And then at the end of the game, I was like, oh, there he is, my Christmas tree guy. Yeah, so that was not like a great move on my part. And I guess the lesson is it is possible to be too sneaky of a git.
Yeah.
That's my lesson there. So, be careful when you're painting. Be careful when you're kit bashing. Don't go too small.
You were brutal but cunning.
I was a little too brutal and a little not cunning enough.
Yeah.
I lost that game like only barely. Of course, we timed out. But that 2 wound, the mission we were playing, victory points were determined by how many wound characteristics you had near these different objectives, and it was like, that was my power claw. Like, he was definitely going to kill some guys. He also would have brought 2 wounds to whatever objective he went to. But he never made it because I forgot him. So sad.
You still did pretty well at LVO, though.
I
You
did fine.
finished in the top 20. You finished actually top 15 because you were 15
I was 15,
overall.
yeah.
Yeah. We didn't do too bad.
Well,
We did good.
it was a really good experience. We will definitely see you there
absolutely.
next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Will? A mistake?
Well, here's an. I had the worst model placement in the world 2 weeks ago, playing against, ironically, Aaron's Tau. It was an arena match, and I completely discounted the board that we were playing on. Aaron had gone first. He had moved up, and as a Thousand Suns player, you generally want to go second. That's just kind of... The Thousand Suns are a better reactionary army rather than an initiative army. And so Aaron had moved, and I just moved my sorcerer in an open doorway, thinking, well, there's so many obstructions here, there's so many walls in the way between me and everything, that surely I won't be able to be shot. Well, I was wrong, because one of the stealth suits drew a direct line of sight. Like, perfect. Within half range, so of course it got its 2d6 for its damage and picked the highest, and so it was a turn 1 kill of my sorcerer and my leader. And the rest of the game went about as well as you can expect after that.
In my mind's eye, I saw the door open, and all your sorcerers saw all these little like lenses turned towards him, and then here,
It was the arrogance of Zinch that led me to that point. Well, gentlemen, I think we should take a little bit of a commercial break, and we'll be right back with our final segment.
Sounds good.
Life's a foolish game. Do you ever feel the same? Well, maybe we could change. Turn the ship another way. Feel it in.
Alright, so I've got my sniper specialist with the plasma shooting at you. He's comms boosted. That means I'm hitting on a 2+. All I need is a 2. 2 shots. Alright, here we go. Oh, wow, okay. That's 2 1s. No big deal. Sniper specialist, re-rolling 1s. Alright, here we go. I rolled 2 1s again? How is that even possible? Oh, this game makes me so mad. All I want to do is just flip the table. Why? Why is the table so heavy?
Are you tired of this happening to you? Has years of wargaming atrophied the appendages you call arms? Then you should try Dr. Hugo Longbottom's patented Auto Flipper. With a simple touch of a button, that heavy table is flipped with ease, ensuring that your man-child spectacle of rage is witnessed for all to see.
I used to have to bottle up my unhealthy obsession with my game of tiny war men when things didn't go my way. Now I can openly shame myself and all those who know me in public with ease. Thanks, Auto Flipper.
Auto Flipper. Rage quitting has never been easier.
Okay, hi everyone, and welcome back from our commercial break. We are back to KnightsCast podcast for the second short segment of our show. So the plan is as follows. We want to spend some time talking a little bit about elites, new content that's been leaked, spoiled, teased over the last week, and very, very little at this point is known. So we want to talk about kind of what we're expecting, build up some anticipation, or get some of our built up anticipation out. Right. We'll fix it in post. Anyway.
no, we won't.
No, we won't.
Fix
We're
that.
just gonna roll. Yeah.
We'll never fix that.
Oh yeah, obviously. So what we want to do here is we want to talk about units we expect to see. We want to talk kind of broadly about what the goal that Games Workshop is going for with this new product is going to be. I think there's a lot to discuss here. We're going to try and keep this short, though. So let's talk about some units we're looking forward to, some units we're dreading. What do we got?
I will say that I was really, really looking forward to Striking Scorpions finally coming to Eldari until...
And tell us a little bit about what they do in 40k for those of us who are just Kill Team players.
Yeah, so that's where I was going.
Okay.
I was really excited about them until I saw what they do in 40k, which is not a lot. In all honesty, I think that when Striking Scorpions hit, if they don't adjust them at all for Kill Team, really you're only going to be taking them for the Exarch, because they still hit on Strength 3. Yeah, their chain swords don't really do much for them.
Yeah.
They don't add
Chain
1
swords,
strength,
not
which
great.
is what I was thinking that they probably do. They have a 3+ armor save, but they're still Strength 3, Toughness 3. They infiltrate, so if they implement deep striking into Kill Team, that could be a thing maybe, but they're barely better than Storm Guardians, which we already have. And Aaron, a long time ago, you told me that, oh man, it would be really great if we had Howling Banshees in the game. And I was like, well, nobody really plays Howling Banshees in main 40k. But Howling Banshees would be amazing in Kill Team.
Tell us about him.
Their Banshee Mask negates Overwatch. And they are a close combat. They are a hand-to-hand unit.
I'm going to go on record. Then the Howling Banshees should just never be allowed.
Never, ever.
No. The negate
man.
Overwatch, I don't... That's overpowered, and I don't want to sit at the table. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Good day, sir.
So
I said good day.
Howling Banshees would be good, and then I started looking at some of the other aspects, and like warp spiders would be great.
Tell us about him.
They're just good. I don't have their stat line on me, or else I would tell you a little bit more. But they're kind of a quick killing unit. They're very elusive. They're pretty cool. And then Dark Reapers would be great because their guns are super powerful, 36-inch range. But we're only getting striking scorpions. And after seeing their rules, I'm a little underwhelmed.
Are you
sorry,
sure
do you know
you're just
that?
getting striking scorpions?
We're also getting Wraith Guard.
Do you guys think that that they're gonna do, that Games Workshop's gonna do what they did for Commanders, where you get like two elites, or like what's the speculation on the elites? Are we gonna get 2 new units? Are we gonna get 3 new units? Or
I think that is a great question. So I think we can speculate about individual units, and we will a little more. But the big question I want to know about elites is, are they going for a tight, balanced game that can work in competitive play, or are they trying to do more like what I see them trying to do with Commander, which is throw everything at you and kind of see what's fun? So that's a pretty unbalanced, goofy game. It's super fun. I love Commander, but there's a reason I think that you don't see a lot of high-level competitive and tournament play in Commander.
well, it's like baby 40k.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you just have
elites will be too. Yeah. I mean, so that's a possibility, anyways. That elites may just be, take all of them. What do you want? You want Terminators? You want striking Banshee Scorpions? Take it. Fine, sure. And in that case, I think this is going to be a game that will scratch an itch for a lot of players. I would love to see some weird, goofy models on the table.
Do y'all see that this will bring? Because I know from our experience at LVO, there were tons of people playing full 40k, and then there
Like 600.
600, and then for the Kill Team, we had 38 of us in total, and that was a lot more than what they expected. So my speculation on this with the elites and same with the Commanders, I think it's going to get more people from the 40k part that haven't played Kill Team into Kill Team. Yeah. But then, and retrospective on that too, it would be like us as Kill Team players, because we're all avid, for our listeners, like we're all avid Kill Team players. Like we contemplated playing 40k, none of us have bitten the bullet yet, but we're really on the edge. I'm
still consulting my bank about a loan.
I had the box in my hands.
So I think it'll allow people to field really sweet units.
Yeah.
That they want to put on the table.
Yeah. I think if Games Workshop does it right, elites integrates into competitive play. I think you stick with the 100-point unit limit. And these units are just more expensive, and so it's high risk, high reward taking them.
It could be like what I think they probably hope Commanders would be for us in terms of like the next level of Kill Team. Elites may be the thing that kind of does what I think the void they were trying to fill with Commanders.
Yeah. My theory is, I think it's a way to get really cool units that aren't seen as much on the tabletop back on the table. Terminators. Yeah. Aspect Warriors, like Crisis Battle Suits, whatever orc elites are, because I don't know, because I've never played them. Nids that aren't seen. I think it's going to let people be like, I'm going to throw a Terminator out there, and the Terminator is going to do what the Terminator used to do.
Yeah.
Which is just own face.
Yeah.
And you'll have that be like, I think it's going to let that elite unit feel elite, because I think in Kill Team, it lends itself to that kind of really cool, like, granular level of a battle where you throw this Terminator or a battle suit or whatever in, and it just comes in and it just stomps in. And I think that, like, in my mind, the fluff is just like there to be like, this is so cool.
I mean, I can't wait to see what, because for me coming in, like, I know nothing about 40K, so I don't even know what to even speculate or new leaks. But I'm so excited to have a new model that I can paint and, like, incorporate into my team. Like, that whole aspect of it. I think there's going to be some really cool and interesting models. Because, like, Kill Team has great models, but, I mean, if I got Tau and your Tau, the only thing that's different is the paint job. I think with those larger units, we're going to be able to do more to it to make them more unique, but then also as another aspect to the game that I think for us as Kill Team players.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really think this can go one of two ways. I think either they check the box where this is going to be, as you say, Will, where they're going to be trying to incorporate new units into competitive play, and they're going to try and keep this game really tight. I think the way we'll know that is if they add only a very small number of units for each faction. On the other hand, I think it's also possible that they will do much more like they did, again, the way I see Commander, which is that they're going to just try and give us a lot of stuff, which, Aaron, like you just said, Jesse, like you just said, stuff that's cool and fun, stuff that we will definitely love to play, but stuff that makes the game a little too unwieldy and a little too swingy. And if they do that, again, I don't see that as a fail at all. I think the cool thing about Kill Team is there are a lot of different ways to play it, and they're all great. But we'll know soon enough, and I think it can only be one of these two ways.
I would count it as a fail if it goes that way, though. Okay. If it's only purely fluffy, it's only purely fun, because I think that Kill Team sings when it's competitive.
Yeah.
I think it's at its best when it's competitive. Right. And to give more a variety of units for some of these factions, like the Chaos factions, which have two options, Grey Knights that have one option, that's going to be a huge thing. And if you can incorporate them and make them competitive, then you make the game overall much better. Because I'm going to tell you, if they're introducing Striking Scorpions and they're only available for elite-only games, you lost my money. Because I'm not going to buy Striking Scorpions just to play them in fluff games. Yeah. Like I want them to be competitive. I want them on the table because they should have been in the book in the first place, in my opinion. Yeah. So
I think that Eldar, to make them what they should be, need like an aspect warrior. They need all the shrines. Yeah. I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, because they synergize so cool with everything else. Yeah. Like a swooping hawk would give you fly, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff. They're laser blasters and dropping frag grenades and doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And like the Howling Banshees, if you could like negate my Overwatch,
that's a hard counter to
which
Tau.
Would fix your Tau problem.
Yeah.
There's your cure for the common Tau.
Yeah. That is really interesting, because that way, all of a sudden, there's a different fix besides just spamming chargers. Now you've got some options of chargers who can just not be shot in Overwatch. Yeah. That's a very interesting...
And as a Tau player, it would give me something against chargers, because I would finally have crisis suits with flamers.
Right, so you have no flamers. Yeah,
I have no flamers.
Yeah.
So,
super interesting. Well, I don't know about all that. All I know is, as orcs, if I get anyone with 4+ ballistic skill, it's a big day. And man, if I get anyone who has better than a 6+ armor save, I'm going to be like spinning on the floor. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I anticipate, because really all we're speculating on is a 25-second trailer that we got at Gamma. Yeah. Like, we got no more information at Adepticon, which was unfortunate, but I have to believe that the orcs are probably going to get Meganobs, which is the orc equivalent of Terminators. So
this is like a 2-up save, right?
Yeah, they're beefy. They're beefy boys.
So you mentioned another point, Will. You mentioned the Heretic Astartes who only have 2 models. So another thing that I believe I saw this on the Facebook group. Someone had like a screen cap of a Facebook comment from GW or something. So what I saw, and maybe you guys can comment on this too, was a claim, from GW.
Frog in the throat.
Yikes. That there's going
Orc in the throat.
Orc in the throat.
Get that grind out.
Yeah,
Get that
grind
grind out.
Squig is coming out. Yeah,
It's that Nasher squig, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Just roll the 6 again. Jeez.
I'm going to put him somewhere. So again, claim that they're going to have faction-specific traits. So my set, and I don't know if this is directly connected to elites or what, but if they end up releasing faction-specific attributes or traits or whatever, all of the sudden this means that a couple of teams that look pretty trashy right now, Heretic Astartes and regular Astartes, for example, so Chaos and regular Space Marines, all of the sudden you have an option to make those teams really interesting. I played Chaos for the first time last night. I had never played against them, and I had also never played as them until just yesterday. I played Chaos. They have 4 tactics in the book. One of them is only usable by your leader, and only if he or she is in fight, like if he's within an inch of an enemy model, and one of them is only usable by Khorne models. You've basically got 2 freaking tactics, right?
Yeah.
That's just not a lot to do. You've got no interesting weapons. It seems to me that this gives them an opportunity, this faction, the promise of faction-specific traits, gives GW an opportunity to kind of rewire Adeptus Astartes and Heretic Astartes to make them a
Especially
little more
after the
interesting.
second version, Volume 2 of the Chaos Codex just came out.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
I have to believe that that's maybe part of the plan, if that's in fact the case, that we're getting faction-specific stuff, which I would love, because then the Ulthway get our 6-up foresight saves.
Well, then our Nid player would get access to Hive Fleet traits.
Yeah.
Kraken, anyone?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that would change the game for you. It changes the game for everyone, because everyone gets a flavor at that point.
Yeah.
And you're having tactics on, and then, like, you're just...
It makes it a lot more tactical game. It makes things a lot more interesting, because Kill Team right now, as it stands, is very much 3rd edition 40k. You have an army. That's what the army does.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Come back later. Introducing faction traits would give you that flavor that the regular 40k players get in their games, where these lists become much more in depth. They become much more customizable and interesting. So I really do hope that is part of the game.
It seems to me that at the very least, I would really like to see that for Adeptus Astartes and Heretic Astartes. Honestly, if Orcs and Eldar and Nids and everyone else don't get faction-specific traits, I think that would be okay. But I think it's necessary. My impression from trawling around on the internet and talking to randos in game stores, my impression is that Heretic Astartes and Adeptus Astartes could really use some help.
Yeah.
And for Heretic Astartes, they could just really use some more customization.
You know, I would really like to see, and I doubt they would do it with the elites, but it'd be really cool if they just added a whole new faction. Like
they
whole
are.
other thing
Yeah, well,
to
that's-
it.
The Custodes models, which as the resident troll, I will be throwing Custodes on the table.
Yes.
You can put it in the bank right now.
They're going to be 45 points a model.
They may or may not be in the mail right now.
What?
I may or may not have picked a color scheme for them.
Oh my God.
You say Solar Guard, anyone?
We don't even know when the book's coming out.
Don't care.
It's already, he's gonna have the fully painted model second.
Yeah, it's like,
Bam.
oh, it's here.
There we go.
Guys, I gotta get home so I can start practicing flipping tables.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about brings us to the end of our first episode. So really quickly, let's talk about where we're going to go, what we're going to do next time, whenever that is. So here's our plan for next time. First of all, we have a segment that Will's going to tell you guys a little bit about, and then I'll talk a little bit about a plug.
So it's a segment called This Old List. This Old List will focus on a list that we're running in our current meta that maybe isn't quite working as well as you might like it to. We take into consideration the models that you have on hand, and we just kind of workshop, and we come up with our own lists. We suggest strategies to employ on the field, and then at the end of that segment, we'll choose one of the lists that we bring to the table to play in one of our games here in beautiful Los Angeles, California,
Right on.
and then we'll report back on how it did. So it's kind of like, here's a broken down thing, fix it. somebody fixes it or doesn't fix it, and we see how it does in the
Yeah,
team.
we're gonna either try to figure out how to make it work, or we're gonna break it even more.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, exactly. So it's an experiment, but I think it's going to be cool.
I think in the comments, if we open it up to a listener, that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the idea is if you have a list, that you would like to submit to Fly by KnightsCast, please send it to.
Your timbre is very good.
Yes, thank you. You should send it to KnightsCast2019@gmail.com.
Yes.
You can also DM us on Instagram. So our name on Instagram is KnightsCast Podcast, and our username is Knights_cast on Instagram. Again, we'd love to see some busted lists or lists that you're having trouble with, matchups that you're having trouble with, and we'd love to try and give you some mild to bad advice on how
We
to
would
fix them
love
up.
to argue about it.
Yeah, right, right on, yeah.
Or if someone wants to send me a meme about that the Taos suck,
Send,
slide that in the DM,
send
and I
Aaron
will
your sauciest
respond in
memes.
kind with a meme back at you. So I'm taking all comers.
Aaron is well salted at this point, in case you haven't noticed yet. Now, the other... also, so we're going to talk next time about the matchup between Aaron's Tau and Will's new Eldar list. I got my money on Tau. Again, more on that as the situation
I
develops.
also have my money on Tau, but you know what? I'm going to give it a shot.
Finally, the last thing I want to plug for next time, I keep wanting to say next class. The last thing I want to plug for our next session, cast, we're going to spend some time talking about terrain. So, what I've found in a lot of games of Kill Team, I think we've all found this, likely you have as well, is that the placement of terrain really determines whether or not a game is going to be fun. And there's just not a lot of clear literature on how to place terrain, what kind of terrain to select. Games Workshop sells a lot of terrain, and a lot of that terrain is repackaged terrain from 40K. There's a lot of terrain, I think you could imagine, that works really well in a 40K game that doesn't translate super well to Kill Team. You want certain stuff in terrain, so we want to talk about kind of like some of the theoretical aspects of terrain selection and placement. If you, for example, have any terrain you really like that you use or that's caused real trouble for you, it would be great if you want to tell us about that stuff, again, on Instagram or on Gmail. If you make terrain or sell terrain and you want to tell us about that, again, hit us up. We'd love to talk about it. We'll talk a little bit about, kit bashing terrain, doing homemade terrain as well. But we've got, I think, a lot of ground to cover there. So we didn't really touch on this today, but, a lot of this discussion we're having about charging Tau and these games we've had where we're getting all stuck up dealing with the Tau problem, a lot of these relate in really clear and important ways to terrain placement. And again, it's been a serious frustration for me anyway that there's just not a lot out there to kind of digest about how to do it right. So, next time, hopefully this will be of interest to you. It's certainly of interest to us. We're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about terrain, and hit us up if you've got any ideas, comments, stuff you'd like to share, images of terrain that you really like or that you've really hated. In any case, we want to hear from you. So,
I would also say, guys, just like our peeps, like, hit us up too if you have any comments or suggestions on things you would like us to talk about.
yeah.
Or if there's anything you would like to kind of like see from a podcast that you haven't gotten from any other podcasts on Kill Team or YouTube, like, hit us up. We're totally willing to like try to make this into something that y'all are willing to listen to too. So
Right on.
And the old standby, like, comment, subscribe. That's the best way to support us and help us make this content as we, craft this podcast into what we hope it can be.
Right on.
So we're just enthusiasts like everyone else. We're just out here just to try to like, pimp the word of Kill Team out to the world. So
And to that end, sooner or later, we'll do an episode specifically for noobs, so you can force your friends who don't play but who you want to play to listen to it. All right, so from myself, from Aaron, Jesse, Will, thanks so much for listening, and see you next time here on KnightsCast.